Hey, Shep, how are you?
I am amazing, as a matter of fact.
Oh, amazing. What makes you amazing today?
Well, that's my word. It's so much better than fine. Fine is average, satisfactory, boring, just okay, right?
Yeah,
Fine is better. We could do better than that. And truthfully, if you've read my articles and you've read my books, you know that word amazing pops up throughout all of it. And
it
what are we
does.
talking about today?
You beat me to the punch. We are talking about amazing customer experiences.
Yeah,
Um,
so there you go.
and I think, Shep, the big question that I have for you and the audience today is how are we going to break this model between customer satisfaction? Like, did you leave satisfied? And how are we going to break that concept and make it something where not did you leave satisfied, but did you leave amazed? Or should we?
Sure. Yeah. So, by the way, I just talked about the word fine, and fine is exactly that. Just fine, average, satisfactory, just okay. That's what we have there. The difference between satisfactory and amazing is really not a lot, but I want to get into it if I can. And the idea is satisfactory is a rating, loyalty is amazing experiences. All amazing experiences are predictable and consistent above average experiences. And by the way, they don't have to be a lot above average. They could be the tiniest bit above average. But on a scale of 1 to 5, where average is 3, if you're a 3.1 or 2 consistently, people are going to say they always get back to me. They're always friendly. They're always helpful. They always have the answers. The word always followed by something positive. And by the way, everything that I just mentioned is a basic expectation that isn't really over the top. It's the way it should be. You know, I actually refer to fine as a 4 letter word. It starts with F. It is the F bomb of customer experience. And if it were an acronym, F would stand for a fake smile. How is everything? It's fine. And even if it's over the phone, you can feel the smile, but it's fake. And then I is insincere feedback. N is never coming back, never doing business with you again. And E is emotionless, because even if I look like I'm smiling and I say it's fine, on the inside, you're dead to me. So fine is not fine. That's what satisfactory is, simply a rating. And if you want to be better than average, consistently and predictably, that's when you're going to start to hear your customers say, you know what, that was an amazing experience.
You know, Shep, what's so interesting about fine is there's almost a little bit of like a tinge of disappointment to it. It's like fine is recognizing, like, yeah, it's fine. It's recognizing that there's some other standard that it wasn't when
Yeah.
something's fine.
Yeah. And you know, the other danger of somebody that says or feels like it's fine, you don't hear from customers that rate you average or fine. You hear from people that complain. You hear from people that are exuberantly excited about you. But if it's just okay, there's nothing to say. And I actually wrote an article probably 15, 20 years ago called The Dangerous Customer. And it's not somebody that comes in with a gun. It's somebody that comes in with the attitude of it was fine, because they just go away and they never come back, and you don't know why. They never said anything. So
So,
let's stay
Shep,
away from fine.
let's talk about that because one of the things I think that we should get real practical on and be able to quantify and explain and have a good logical argument for is why does a customer need to be a loyal raving fan? Who cares? Why not have just a bunch of satisfied customers? So, why is it important to have an amazing customer experience rather than a good one? What does it actually do?
Sure. And the real simple answer is you want your customers to come back, right? Okay. Boy, what a perfect segue into a shameless plug for the new book, I'll Be Back, How to Get Your Customers to Come Back Again and Again. So here's the point, which, by the way, just coming out, very excited about it, as you can tell. If you know, the goal is repeat business. Now, repeat business does not necessarily mean loyal business, but I'm okay with that. I think loyalty is the perfect. I mean, I always say repeat customers are gold, but loyal customers are sacred. We want to get up there if we can. But if I can just get the customer to come back again and again for the right reasons, I'm doing a good job. I'm meeting their needs. I'm taking care of their expectations. So Here's the simple rub on this. And I know I may be going off the question a little bit, but I want to stay on this track about what it takes to be amazing. Again, consistent and predictable above average experiences. So we need to train our people. They don't need to go over the top. Over the top is they blew me away. I had a problem. And that's when you have that chance to do something more than just be average or even a little above average. When somebody comes to you with a problem and you get them to walk away, not just happy, but with a renewed confidence to continue to do business with you again, that's an amazing response. You don't have to give away the farm. You don't have to say, oh, you get to keep that for free and we're going to give you money to come back next time. I always say, if you're going to give something away for free, give it to them next time. If you ever go to a restaurant, let's just use that as a really basic example. You ever go to a restaurant and you complain, a lot of times they take it off the bill, they give you a free meal, which is why, by the way, you should always complain, even if there's nothing to complain about, because they will do that for you. I'm just kidding. I really am. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. But if there's truly a problem, you should let the manager or the server know about it. And then a manager will come over, apologize. They'll acknowledge that there's an issue that they want to take care of. They want to fix it. They want to make it right for you if they can. And they do all of that the right way. And I have a 5-step process. If you want to go through it, we can in a little while. But when there's problems. But if they do it the right way and they still feel like, you know what, we need to do something more than that. What does more than that usually mean? It usually means giving the meal away for free. And that's when I say, don't do it at that moment. Make them come back to get the free meal, because you want them to come back and experience what it's supposed to be like. Because I'm going to make the assumption that bad experiences are more uncommon than they are common. And therefore, if you could just get them back in the door, give them maybe an incentive. Maybe it's a free appetizer, drinks, first round of drinks on the manager, whatever. That might get them back to experience what you want them to experience. So I think we're departing from your original question, and that's what happens when I start going off on a tangent. But was that close to the original question you had?
Oh, yes. Shep, tangents, no tangents. We go wherever we need to go, wherever the wind takes us. So there's two things that I'm interested in that you just said. And maybe I'll just pick on the first one for a second. You said 5 steps to dealing with some frustrated customer or customer problem.
Yep.
What are those 5 steps to deal with a frustrated customer or customer problem?
Sure. And I've already mentioned a couple of them already. Number one is you acknowledge that there is a problem. And that could be like, wow, I can understand why you're upset with that. I would be upset if that happened to me as well. That's an acknowledgement. And you're almost trying to empathize and get with the customer and make sure that they know that you know that there's a problem. Number 2, apologize for it. By the way, if you want to flip and apologize first and acknowledge second, that's fine. But these 2 things have to happen first. Number 3, resolution. Either discuss what's going to happen or fix it right here on the spot if you can. Number 4 is ownership. You own what comes your way. It may not be your fault. It's now your problem, though. It's your problem to resolve. And you've got to treat it just as that. And number 5, act as urgently as possible. Expeditiously. The faster you can, the better it is. Let's go back to that restaurant. If and this is a true story, I'm sitting at a table. By the way, we knew the server was bad to begin with just by the whole way the whole evening started. The salads came. A bunch of us got our salads. The gentleman next to me looked at his salad. There was like hardly any lettuce on the plate, where the rest of us had these nice looking, beautiful salads. Something so ridiculous as a salad. And my friend says to the server, excuse me, but look at my salad. What happened? And he looked at his salad, and the server said this, and I'm not making it up. He said, I don't make them, I just serve them. Now, if that's a form of acknowledgement, I guess it is, but it's not the type of acknowledgement we're talking about. I thought, he's got to be joking. He's got to be joking. But no, he wasn't joking. He walked away. So let me tell you what didn't happen. Obviously, that type of acknowledgement isn't what we want. You need to acknowledge. He never said he was sorry. Didn't say, I'll go back and get you a new one. That would have been the resolution. Basically said, I don't make them. I just serve them, which means he blamed the people in the back, whoever makes the salad, for making making that bad salad happen. And then talk about any kind of speed or expediency to resolving the problem. There was none, because there was no effort to resolve it to begin with. Where a good server, number one, probably wouldn't have put that salad down. But if by chance it happened and my friend complained, that good server would say, oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't see that. There's your acknowledgement. I am so sorry. Let me go in the back and let me get another one for you, and I'll be right back. And with that extra sentence, there's the resolution. There's, I'm going to take it back. I'm going to get you a new one. There's the ownership side of it, and I'm going to do it right away. There's your speed. Some problems can't be taken care of right away. But if they can't be, explain the process. And then in the perfect world, you're going to communicate along the way to let that customer know that certain milestones throughout that process are being met and taken care of.
Got it. So one of the things I'm curious about is, I heard, the acknowledgement, then apology, then resolution. And, of course, now we all talk about first call resolution or first interaction resolution. And the heart behind that is, do you understand the problem that you're solving? Do you understand what the customer's issue was that they came in with? Is there some understanding step or some sort of question or confirm step that says, let me make sure I understand exactly like what the issue is? It's that you're missing that big chunk of salad and you're looking at your friends next to you and they got fully healthy salads and you want one of those, right? Is there
Right.
something like that before resolution?
Well, first of all, it's real easy to resolve that salad problem, but let's take a look at a much larger problem, something that might not be so easy. And your customer doesn't just make a statement of complaint. They're really angry and upset. Where we start asking questions to try to de-escalate the anger. And what we're trying to do is get that customer to get into agreement with us on anything so we can start using that as a point of jumping off to finally getting things resolved. And one of the questions when we have a customer that's really upset about something, and sometimes they will contact you guns a-blazing, ready to fire. They're looking for war because they're upset. Couple of reasons why. Number one, the problem didn't happen the moment they finally talked to whoever was there to help them. It happened before. How long ago, we don't know till we ask. I mean, maybe this has been festering for a long time. I have a computer that doesn't have sound. The only way I'm able to connect sound to my computer is to plug in external speakers. And I've been living with this because I know that when I call technical support for my computer, I've got to give them my account number, which is on the back of the computer. That's fine. I've got to wait and wait. And finally, I just studied, we did a research study. We asked 1,000 consumers and we weighted them based to the general U.S. Census, which is, age and gender and geography, ethnicity, et cetera, et cetera. And we asked them, would you rather go to the dentist or deal with customer support? And 48% of them said, I'd rather go to the dentist. They'd rather get a root canal than have to go through that. Well, I kind of feel like that too. So when I finally talk to my support agent who's going to help me with this, it's been happening for a long time. I'm going to probably be more calm about it than a lot of people, but just don't set me off at this point. So here's what we ask. We listen to the customer's problem. And maybe your first acknowledgement is, I can understand that you're having that problem and I want to apologize for it. That's why I'm here. And the reason, here comes the question. The reason you're calling me is because you hope that I'm the person that can help resolve this for you. Is that right? And they're going to say, yes. That's not a yes or no question. You called me because you want help. No, I called you because I'm just looking for a friend to talk to. I know it's not, that's not it at all, right? So once you ask the question, it gets the yes. And then you say, well, exactly. And that's what I'm here to do. So let's start over. I want to completely understand exactly what's going on. If it's okay with you, I'm going to take some notes. And every once in a while, if I can interrupt to ask a question, but I'm going to try to let you go as long as you can before that happens. And it's like you're doing the right things. You're acknowledging the problem. You've apologized. And now I'm really listening. There's something where people will say it's not a good idea to make the customer repeat themselves. But to what you just asked, Mark, it's like first call or first interaction resolution. It's okay to ask a customer to repeat themselves in that first interaction. It's when they have to repeat themselves over and over again to different people to try to finally get to the resolution. That's where you have the problem. Anyway, once you get into alignment, you let that customer go, and they're venting in a sense. They were upset, and you'll notice the second time around, they're much calmer. And you ask the right questions. By the way, this technique works a lot of the time, not every time. It's a technique, and we have a dozen techniques we use to de-escalate anger. And if you ask me what they are, I'm just going to pull out my list and go through them.
Well, Shep, those two techniques I can immediately see influence from the best organizational psychology out there. The first thought I had when you mentioned get the customer, that's right, is that sounds a little bit like Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference.
Yeah.
And how he talks about, that you don't want to get to your right, because if you get to your right, that's the customer resigning, or whoever's on the other side of the conversation resigning and be like, you're right, I'm wrong. But if you say that's right, that's a signal of acknowledgement that the other person has heard your perspective. And then when I heard you, Shep, talk about, how the customer kind of does it more calmly the second time, maybe think of Stephen Covey and how he says you should be giving people emotional air. And when people feel like they're fully listened to, it gives them emotional air to be able to work with you rather than feeling like they're constrained or that they're under pressure. Just releases the pressure valve just a little bit.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And not only that, we talk about alignment too. We want to be in, empathy is being able to understand and really connect with that customer on a level where they know that you understand them. And I'm not telling them I'm right, you're wrong. And the first thing I thought of is we're not trying to win the argument. We're trying to win the customer. And you don't do it by making a one-sided agreement that's your side. It needs to be something that works for them. And most of the time, when you start to get to a point, by the way, not all the time, as I mentioned, these are techniques and tactics that sometimes work, and you have to adjust based on the personality of the person you're working with. But, one of what I call it the, Hail Mary, it's like, I'm not getting anywhere with this person. There is a technique that we use where we just say, hey, let's flip it around. Let's say I'm you and you're me, and I called you with this problem, and you work for the company. What would you do at this point? And it's like, they're not going to expect that. It's like, oh my, I don't know what I would do. Okay, well, we're going to work through this together.
Yep. Chris Voss talks about, that exact same concept, a little different, where, he says, the golden question is, how am I supposed to X? But he says you want to say it in a super non-confrontational way where you're asking the other person to work with you. Like, hey, Shep, I totally understand that you're looking for a return here. How am I supposed to send back a $500 mattress if we haven't, even figured out what's wrong with it?
Right. So, by the way, I love how you are just quoting all these wonderful people in these books. You are a well-read, learned man.
That's what we do, my friend. That's what we do. So then let's zoom out for a second and talk about, what does it take to be amazing? On the people side, what does it take to be amazing? On the process side, what does it take to be amazing? On the technology side, what does it take to be amazing? Can you set this benchmark for all of us that says amazing looks like this?
Yes. Okay. So let's see what we can do. Let's start with the people. And I've kind of alluded to that already. Better than average all the time. That's what we're focused on. So first, we have to hire the right people to begin with. And if you're going to hire somebody for a frontline experience, whether they actually be talking to somebody, messaging them, or any type of communication, you've got to have the right personalities involved. Number two, we've got to train them properly. And we've got to train them through, obviously, classroom training, but how about on-the-job real training? They can sit in shadow, they can participate, they can, work through this. Obviously, they use a product like yours, Marc. They can get some support along the way as questions and comments pop up with your solution that will support the agent and giving the best resolution to the customer. Shameless plug for you. How'd I do?
It was wonderful. Thank you.
So,
Second plug, Shep. That's the second plug. You're running short on them.
all right, good, good. So, but here's the point that people do make the difference. I don't care who the customer is. When the customer says, "I'm doing business with a company," they're really doing business with the people inside the company. And if it's a digital solution, we'll get to digital and technology in a second. But realize that's really part of the experience as well. A website is designed by people to be used for people. A frequently asked questions knowledge base is designed by people to be used for people. Perhaps it's enhanced with artificial intelligence, but again, all of these programs were designed by people to be used for people. I love doing business with them. It's a great comment to hear, but a them is usually a he or a she inside the organization. It's not the entire company. And that is why one of the things we preach is this thing we call an awesome responsibility. And that is that at any given time, if a customer is talking to a person in that company, that person represents the entire company, the brand, everything about that company. And, I remember when I used to take my kids, it was just like, it was so clear. The clarity was there. I took my kids to McDonald's and we walked away. And one day my daughter said, "Dad, the people at this McDonald's are amazing." And it was one person we dealt with, even though we saw others. And I thought, you see that? One person represents everybody. All right. So that's the people side. Where do you want to go next?
Well, first, a question on that. I heard you mention that the representative is representing the entire company, is representing the brand, and one of the concepts that I'm wrestling with and trying to figure out is how much should the customer service representative be bringing the brand voice and the brand personality into their conversation, and how much should they be bringing their own personality and their own voice in the conversation? Are they in conflict? Is there a balance? What does that look like?
There should not be there should not be any conflict. There should be, and the reason is if I have somebody on the front line that isn't confident about my brand, that isn't comfortable with what we believe in, that isn't in alignment with my values and my mission, why did I hire them to begin with? Okay. So I'm an evangelist internally to be able to promote the story and give the level of service that we want. Not that many years ago, I wrote a book titled, here you go, The Amazement Revolution. Talk about customer amazement. And I used American Express as a general case study that covered all 7 of the principles in the book. And I actually interviewed Jim Bush, who at the time was the senior executive VP worldwide of customer service for American Express, in charge of all the call centers worldwide, support centers, whatever you want to call them. Call centers, such an antique term. That term is so 5 years ago. So,
What do you prefer now?
I think we just call them contact centers.
Yeah, that's what we're at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Support center is fine too. Actually, I think we should call them revenue generation centers, because if we do our job right, that customer comes back and spends more money. So another story for another time. But when I talked to Jim, he was so clear, and I'm going to use my term, he wanted a hospitality mentality with all of his agents. He said, if I have a choice of hiring an agent that is skilled, that has been in the business for years, that knows how to use the technology and flip screens and et cetera, or I have somebody in front of me that worked at the front desk of a hotel for the last 3 years, I'm going to hire the person who worked at the hotel. I could train them to flip screens and move around. But that hospitality mentality is very difficult to train. So I know we're breaking away from the original question, but I love that Jim was very clear about that. By the way, something also that was very interesting is managers within the contact center, supervisors, managers, all the way up to Jim, who's at the very top of the pyramid as far as customer service goes. It's in the hierarchy of the people who work there. Compensation was based on a positive NPS score, net promoter score, on a scale of 0 to 10. What's the likelihood that you'd recommend us? They told their agents, it doesn't matter how long it takes. We're going to look at average call time, but that should not be a metric that concerns you. The metric that concerns you is, are we making them happy enough that they'd be willing to recommend? And if we get into it, we talk about that in my new book and how I love that metric, but it may not be the most important metric to look at. But I do want to hit the other side of your question, because I think you said there's people, there's process, there's technology. How do you be amazing in all three of those? Correct?
Correct.
Was there another, did I miss one or?
No, but I think you're bringing up culture too. So we should probably
Okay.
talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about culture. Obviously, all of this is part of the culture, and that starts at the top. Let's talk about technology for just a moment. Obviously, you're a technology company, and I think technology plays a really important role. The goal behind technology is to make things better. Okay. Now, that means better for everyone. Better for the customer, great. Better for the employee, that's great too. But the reason it really needs to be better for the employee is because if we put a technology out there that makes it great for the customer, but it's cumbersome to the employee on the inside, the employee's attitude about that technology is going to show through. Ultimately, it's going to be a stressor, and we need to take as much stress away as possible. You know, there's a phrase called single pane of glass. Are you familiar with that, Marc? Yes.
Oh yeah, hear it all the time.
Great. And this is something that's probably, I may be losing track of time, but I'm saying in the last 4, 5, 6 years, it's been really important. And I always said, like 10, 15 years ago, the company that can figure out how to put all the channels, we talk about multi-channel, omni-channel, all the technologies and ways that customers communicate with us, messaging through an app, social media channels, direct, chatbots, direct to the agent. Put it all on one screen where I don't have to flip from one program to the next. If I could do that, I'm going to be a millionaire, billionaire, whatever. And now companies are really getting good at providing that solution. So, but the goal is we need to make that technology work for both customers and employees. Now let's talk about process if we can. Any questions about technology? I don't know if I have any answers, but I'll try to give.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, about the single pane of glass for a second, it's funny because sometimes you'll be sitting with an agent and then you'll see the agent do, if they're on Windows, like the shift tab, and that pulls up all their tabs. And you're like, oh my God, you're
Holy
in 8
moly.
windows right now. And there's a note and a calculator hidden behind each window. You know what I'm talking about?
I do. So I can't remember the exact stat. I should go and look this up, but it's like hundreds and hundreds of switches from one program to the next throughout a day of a typical support person, agent, if you will. So yeah, it's mind blowing. I know. I sit in contact centers and I watch these people and I'm blown away. To me, it's like watching, and you can see my guitars in the background. It's like watching, Stevie Ray Vaughan go up and down the
Going
neck
up and
of a
down the
guitar.
keys.
It's
Yeah.
like, wow. And they're flipping screen to screen, program to program, handling sometimes multiple conversations at the same time. I'm going, that's talent. That is true talent. Anyway, I digress. Let's talk about process for a second, because this is probably one of the most important areas. Great service I don't consider customer service to be a department. I consider it to be a philosophy. And great service is part of the culture. We'll talk about culture if you want in a little while. But in order to make this happen, it has to be throughout the entire organization, beyond the people. It has to be the total experience. And that's where process comes to play. And we need to, and I know it's an old term, we need to journey map every single possible journey that our customers might make. From the first time they're thinking about doing business with us, that's prospecting stage. There's a sales stage. There's marketing. They call in for support. They call in a second time. They're a repeat customer. There's all of these different journeys that customers take. And here's what's important. You have to journey map the top line. That's the touch point where that customer is interacting with you. And then I want to go deep. I want to go deeper, and I want to go into the company, and I want to show, if you look behind the scenes at all these touch points, there is another department that never sees the customer that's probably helping out with that touch point, at least certain ones. Maybe they're the biggest part of it, and yet they never seem to have any contact with the customer, but they're integral. So everybody needs to understand what their part is, and what every department needs to understand how they support the customer experience, because ultimately, the customer, savvy or not, is going to say they've got great service, referring to the entire experience, or it's a great experience referring to the interactions that they have with the people of the company. So I really want people to think about those processes. Jan Carlson years ago talked about this concept called the moment of truth. And there's been different variations of this that have come out over the years. But his variation was anytime a customer comes into contact with any aspect of a company, they form an impression. He ran an airline. So passengers versus customers. And the many times, the first major contact back in the early 80s when Jan Carlson came up with this idea was it was calling the reservation center. Today we go online, we book it online, but that is also a major contact using technology to drive the service and experience. But that's all these major touch points. And he said, if you're not supporting somebody, you're supporting somebody that is. And I'll go a step further and say you're part of a process that does as well. Because if I check my bag at the airport, which is a major touch point, and I see it go down that conveyor belt and then into a tunnel, who knows where it goes, but somehow or another, a few hours later when I land, there it is on the baggage carousel. Well, I'm going to guess that a minimum of 10 people touched my bag from the time it went down on the conveyor belt, put onto a cart, the ticket or the tag was scanned. A couple people took it out to the airplane. People put it on the plane, took it off the plane. Exact same thing happens, but in reverse. And if any one of those people failed, I would have a bad experience. But none of those people ever saw me. And guess what? If any one of those people failed to do their job and my bag shows up on another plane at a different destination, that person not only failed me, but also failed their internal customer, who I feel bad for this person. That's the guy at the baggage claim office that has to sit there and deal with people like me going, you lost my bags. So anyway, that's that process part of it is real important. We can do a whole show on process.
It makes me think of the fourth step that you mentioned in the customer resolution process, ownership.
Ownership.
And, when, let's take a support, like you're calling it a support desk, and maybe there's another department that needs to get an answer for you. When the support agent that you're talking to says, oh, that's the other department, like that is like one of the most frustrating experiences you can possibly have. And I think it's so important that in an organization, each individual takes on that level of ownership and they feel like my job isn't just to send this to the other department, wait for a response, and then take the response and send it back to you. My job is to handle this interaction beautifully. And in order to do that, I may have to go to the other department and go to them again and go to them again. Or do you mind if I have a customer on hold? It's really important. Do you mind if I get this response? Like that's the sort of ownership that I think is really important. And I think that we need to make sure that every organization has a culture of ownership where it's never, I passed the baton to the department and whenever they pass it back to me, then I'll take it again. But it's like, you're still holding that baton even when somebody else is holding the baton.
Yeah. The easiest way, the story that I like to tell is I check in a hotel. I walked upstairs. My nightstand light was burnt out. Not a big deal. On the way to dinner, the person behind the front desk who checked me in said, going to dinner, Mr. Hyken? I go, yes, I am. How was your room? And I said, well, as a matter of fact, you know what? The nightstand light doesn't work. And actually I checked, the bulb is burnt out. And that person says, I'll take care of it. They don't say, we'll go over to the house phone, pick up, ask for housekeeping. Okay. But it gets better than that because as soon as I leave, that person picks up the phone, they call housekeeping or maintenance and they ask them to go repair and exchange the bulb or whatever. And when I come back, they'll say, Mr. Hyken, I've checked. It's working now. If for some reason you have a problem with it, call me back. And of course, you can call me for any other problems as well. That's ownership. And, again, not my fault. Not my problem, but it's my opportunity. Now, there are times that you are going to have somebody talk to another person, transfer them. The way you go about it it's just the difference of night and day. And if this person truly feels, when I say this person, the customer, that you're looking out for their best interest and you say, look, this is over my head. I've got to get you to somebody at a higher level. The way I hand you off, I inform that other person, this is why this person's on the phone. It starts warm. But the key is follow up. I had to pass it off. It's no longer my problem. No, it is still my problem. It hasn't been resolved yet. Until it's resolved, I'm not going to be happy. And this is tough because it takes time and it takes effort. You, if you want this type of culture, have to let your agent close that loop for you.
I was talking to one of Balto's investors. We were out at dinner, I think maybe a month ago or so. And this investor has crazy amounts of deal flow, essentially meaning that all the other investors are constantly recommending startups to this investor that his firm can invest in. And I asked him, I was like, how do you have all this deal flow? You're a newer player. So you don't have like a 20 or 30-year reputation in venture capital, but somehow everyone is giving you these deals. And he said, it's very simple. When somebody recommends a deal to me and I talk to that company, I will always close the loop with the person that made the recommendation. If I invested, I'll thank them and say, oh my God, thank you so much. We made an investment. It's great. We're so excited. He said, if I didn't, I'll send them a note thanking them anyway and let them know why I chose not to proceed with that company. He said that one thing, closing the loop with the person who made the recommendation, has been the key to his success with sourcing deals. And I think it's the exact same principle at play here.
Always. It's the follow-up. And as small as it may be, it could be very important to that customer's ears, the way the customer thinks about you, and just the general nature. There's a company, I don't need to mention their name. They're a great company. I mean, if you want, I can. Every time I've called them for support, I always get through. There's never a wait. Their people are great at calling me back when they say they're going to call back. And you know what? They're a great organization, and I don't mind. I mean, I know if I have to contact, I don't need to tell you, a utility company. I don't need to mention which one. A lot of times there's a struggle there. When you have a monopoly or a duopoly, the level of service is oftentimes not as strong as if there was true competition out there vying for business. And, we've got all the studies and the facts and the numbers in our studies that show, and our research that shows, it doesn't take much to get a customer to move these days. As a matter of fact, this year we found we asked, how many things would have to happen for you to leave to do business with someone else if the company was loyal. If you were loyal to the company, not just a customer of the company. And the discrepancy was minimal. So stakes are higher than ever before.
I was going to say, if you're loyal, you get 3 mistakes. No?
It depends what the situation is. But basically, if you're loyal and that customer says, I'll give you 3 mistakes, it's like you get 3.4. I'm sorry, 3 if you're
got it.
So it's not like a big difference.
Yeah.
The number of loyal customers that would be willing to switch after just one bad problem was surprisingly high. I think it was like 60 some odd % with just one. Now it has to be a bad problem. But that still surprises me because just a couple, 3 years ago, loyalty bought you a second chance.
So then, Shep, that kind of takes us back to our original question, which is, wait a minute, if you get 3.4 tries by going above and beyond and generating this top tier raving fan, loyal customer, and you get 3 tries if you don't, and the delta is so small, why give amazing experiences? Does it really make a difference?
Actually, more than ever, you need to, because if the goal, I believe, if we dig deeper and deeper, loyal customers will give you some benefit of the doubt. They'll make an effort to try to stay with you, but you've got to resolve the problem. If you don't create, stepping back, it's counterintuitive what you asked, because you're saying, well, if it doesn't really make any difference, why be nice to people? They're just going to leave anyway. Okay, guess what? Somebody else is going to be nice. And I'm using nice as a very general term.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
by the way, sneaking back into the book, I'll be back. There's a chapter on there on the shortest speech I ever gave in the world, and it was 2 words long: be nice. And the reason I had to give that short speech was my time slot was 40 minutes long, and I was the last speaker of the day, closing keynote speaker. And the executive who hired me said, you have to end on time. I don't care what time you start. If they're running 10 minutes late, you now only have 30 minutes. Well, I could see they were running late, but when it got down to where like we have like 10 minutes and this person still hasn't left the stage. What do you want me to do? And it got down to under 5 and we had to leave because there was logistics that were involved. And I said, you know what? I've got 2 minutes. Let me get up there and let me just do a little quick thing. I think you'll like it. And I got up there and I said, hey guys, I know we're going to end on time. So I'm going to give you the shortest speech that you've ever heard on customer service. So here's what I want you to do. I'm going to say, ladies and gentlemen, Shep Hyken, applaud. I'm going to walk back out. Here we go. Ready? I did it. I walked back out and I had the mic in my hand. And I said, be nice. Put the mic down, walked off stage. Almost to the end of the stage, I stopped and said, okay, I have about a minute left. It takes a
really
lot
nice.
Be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be really, really, really nice. No, being nice is foundational because you could have the best product and you can have even a quick response. But if your people aren't friendly, nice, they are going to upset the customer. Now, here's the interesting fact. We listed a number of reasons why you would be unhappy with a customer. Apathy, rudeness, lack of knowledge, long hold times, inconvenient. Number 1 and number 2 were apathy and rudeness. Okay, that's the reason your customers leave. Because,
rudeness.
Yeah. Do I have it in front of me? I do. It's all right here in this packet. But yeah, apathy and rudeness are it's a big part of why customers will terminate the relationship with you. And how do you like that? I'll be back reference. You're terminated. And they'll move on. Apathy and rudeness. What that tells me is that nice people are given the benefit of the doubt. But they may not get a second, third, or fourth chance, okay? But in the process of the customer being upset, if the way it's managed is nice, helpful, knowledgeable, courteous, respectful, you've got your chance at making this customer not only feel like, okay, I got my problem resolved, but I'm comfortable enough to want to keep coming back to them the next time I buy whatever it is. You know, that's what handling complaints and problems really are. It's not just resolution, it's confidence building.
Yeah. So let's talk about the opportunity behind, great customer experience. You mentioned a few minutes ago, maybe we don't call it the contact center, maybe we call it the revenue center. And there's been this concept that keeps bubbling up and then it kind of fades away and it bubbles up and fades away. And it's the idea of the contact center becoming a profit center versus a cost center. And every year we say, this is the year that we turn off the cost center mentality. It's not about cost savings and shortest call wins. It's about the high NPS calls or whatever. So when you have your picture of the revenue center, what is in your mind, does the revenue center look like?
Well, and think about what that support center's job is. The job is to fix the problems so that customers will come back and recommend, not talk poorly about you. Bottom line is this, you can call it anything you want. I think that contact center, customer support center, that's a reactive type of title. Client retention center, you can even though customer success has a different meaning for a lot of software companies, your success programs, you could call it customer success in the form of we are creating successful win-wins for us with the customer with us. Revenue generation. Here's the thing. If I go into an Ace Hardware store and I ask where the paint section is and I say, I need a can of paint, they should ask me, do you need any brushes with that? We train our people properly. We can ethically, because it's the right thing to do, is cross-sell and upsell. If I don't ask them that question, by the way, and they go home or I go home, or let's say I go to the Ace Hardware and they don't ask me if I need brushes and I get home and I got to come back to get the brushes, because it's not that it's their fault they didn't ask me. I'm upset that I didn't remember. But here's the point. The only time you don't want your customer to come back is when they're coming back for the same problem. So it's incumbent upon you to ask the right questions, to make the right suggestions, to come up with the solution, to spend that extra moment of time so they don't have to call back, not just because they're not happy about not calling back or having to call back, but also it costs money to onboard them for that call, to authenticate their account, to, do whatever. So I think we have to be very, very careful how we think in terms of what our true job is. The person who's sitting there saying, my job is to simply manage complaints. No, your job is to make sure that customer wants to come back the next time.
One of the things that I'm seeing is I think that the contact center world can learn a lot from the retail world, even though in this last year, the retail world is the one that has fallen on the toughest times ever. And the contact center world is seeing 20 or 30% increases in volume. But I think that one of the things the retail world got right is those little opportunities to identify a customer need that the customer did not necessarily know they had. And I'll take your paint example, Shep. I might even ask one other question before then. Before I say, do you need any paintbrushes? I might say, oh, what are you painting?
Right.
Worst case scenario, you got 10 seconds of rapport. Daughter's new, I'm having a new daughter. She has a bedroom. Oh, wonderful. On the worst case scenario, you have an extra 10 seconds of rapport, a little positive emotion that's there, hopefully, unless they're painting something terrible. And then the best case scenario is they go, oh, I'm painting a giant fence. And you go, oh, well, then in that case, do you have a giant fence painter paintbrush?
Do you have the primer? Do you, so
yeah.
At Ace Hardware, and I wrote a book titled, and here's that amaze word again, amaze every customer every time. And I used Ace Hardware throughout the book because it was a brand that is recognized by everybody. But what people don't realize is that brand, Business Week did a study, when I decided to write the book, it's because I looked at the top 25 customer service brands, and Ace Hardware, according to Business Week, and they looked at all kinds of different ways, was rated number 10, one ahead of the Ritz-Carlton, which kind of blew my mind that Ace Hardware, and that's, looking at ratings, looking at, reviews and that type of thing. Anyway, where was I going with this? One of their jobs when they come in is not just to be delivering good service, it's to deliver helpful service. So they will ask you the perfect opening at a retail store, not may I help you, but what can I help you find today? And if I know where I'm going, they'll know, they can tell. But if I tell them, hey, I'm looking to buy I'm looking for paint. Where's your paint section? Let me take you there. On the way, what are you painting, to your point? And the reason I'm gathering this information is so that I can best sell them what they need and what they want, not just what they think they need and want. One of Steve Jobs' famous lines had something that's the effect of, we try to come up with things that the customer needs that they don't know they need yet. So if I am buying a can of paint, well, what are you painting? Well, I'm painting a fence. Outside fence, wood or metal? Is there a difference? Oh, yeah. This paint doesn't stick to metal very well. This is your best wood. Oh, man, I'm glad I'm talking to you. See, that's where your knowledge kicks in. By the way, apathy, rudeness, knowledge. Knowledge is right up there in the top 3 as to why customers don't want to come back, because they deal with people that don't have the knowledge when they should have the knowledge. Once again, a program like yours helps customers, or helps agents provide the knowledge and answers that the customers are looking for.
Yeah.
So, but that's the whole point. And I think at that point, you're ethically upselling and cross-selling them into what they need. You're giving them the information they need to make good, informed decisions. And when people find you to be helpful, they will pay more money for that helpful information. Hence, the reason Ace Hardware is 1/10 the size of Home Depot in many cases, has an ad budget that's a fraction, maybe it's 2-3% of what they have at Home Depot. But somehow or other, they survive because they've got knowledge and expertise. They've got a different format on how they do business. Not that Home Depot isn't great, because they are. Okay, don't get that wrong. It's just there's a different model that allows them, Ace Hardware, to survive and thrive in the wake of a giant.
When you look at where everything is heading in the contact center world, customer service world, support world, the revenue centers, or whatever the new title will be, I'm sure we'll have one in the next 5 years. If you take all this and look out at 2030, what do you think the contact center of 2030 looks like?
Wow, great question. People think, are humans going to be replaced by chatbots and artificial intelligence? And to that, I say, did video kill the radio star? You're probably too young to remember that one.
Oh, no, I'm just wondering, did it?
No, it didn't.
Yeah.
And and I even talk about this in a couple of my books. And I give the story behind the ATM and I'll be back. The ATM came about and they said, oh, great, this is going to revolutionize the banking industry. People are going to be able to go to a machine and get their cash, and they're not going to have to deal with the tellers anymore. And every bank I've been into has a teller. There's still drive-up windows. This is 20, 30 years later. So as we look out to 2030, I don't believe we're going to see, there may be more technology. There may be better virtual interactions, digital interactions. However, there will be a need for the human-to-human relationship. At this point, and I'll say it again, I said it 2, 3, 4 years ago, you can't automate and digitize a relationship to the point. You actually strike that. Very few people can. Very few companies can. Amazon has done an amazing job at doing that, but we can't all be Amazon. So recognize, if you're going to put up technology between me and a human being, that technology better be so good that it makes me feel I love you. I mean, I've got, you can see in my background, I got that little cylindrical speaker, smart speaker as they call it. I'm not going to mention her name because she'll start talking to us, but that's my Amazon Echo. I love my Echo. It plays music. It orders me pizza. It's amazing what that thing will do for me. And that is great technology. But if you ever go to a grocery store and you go to the self-service checkout, that's technology. There is always a person standing nearby to help you when you go, man, I've got this piece of fruit. How do I scan the piece of fruit to get the price, right? That's so important. You need to back up. And I don't believe that's going to go away. And I believe that humans will be used for higher level experiences with the customer, help them at deeper levels. And support them in ways. But that's what I think 2030 is going to look like. And of course, there's going to be some amazing technologies like your technology, for example, that will support customers. AI will not only support the agent and telling them what to say, but they'll also tell them more about the customer to be able to personalize that experience. In other words, AI supports the agent almost more than it does the customer at that point.
Shep, thank you so much. So good having you on today. And if folks want to find you or find your books or find anything you do, where can they find you?
We'll start with my website, hyken.com, Hyken. And if you're interested in the book, I'll be backbook.com. What can I say? I think you're going to love it. And thanks for having me on your show today, Mark. It was great.
Oh, you are so welcome. Can you give us one more? I'll be back.
All right, here, I'll do it this way. All right, let's put on the glasses. Let's do it right. Here we go. I'll be back.
We'll have you soon. Thanks again, Shep.